What do you mean our reservations don't exist? I stared at the airline attendant, my voice rising as panic crawled up my throat. The look on her face, that practiced mixture of sympathy and detachment, told me everything I needed to know before she even opened her mouth. My husband Alex squeezed my hand, his face paling beside me. The airport bustled around us, indifferent to the moment my perfect honeymoon was crumbling before it even began. "Your reservations were canceled yesterday afternoon," she said, tapping at her keyboard. "The confirmation email says the refund was already processed to the original payment method." That's when I noticed the text message on Alex's phone from his father. "Call me when you get this. You'll thank me later." In that moment, I knew exactly what had happened. 8 hours earlier, my alarm had blared at 4:30 a.m., but I was already wide awake, my body humming with excitement. I rolled over to find Alex still sound asleep, his dark hair tousled against the pillow. 3 days had passed since we'd said our vows, and the wedding glow hadn't worn off yet. I traced my finger along his jawline, overwhelmed by how much I loved him. "Wake up, husband," I whispered, letting the word roll off my tongue. "Today's the day." Alex groaned, one eye cracking open. "5 more minutes, Eliza." But I could see the smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "No time," I said, already bouncing out of bed. "Bali awaits, and our shuttle will be here in exactly 90 minutes. I ducked into the bathroom to shower, mentally reviewing our packing list again. We'd spent a year planning this trip, 2 weeks in Bali, exploring temples, hiking volcanic mountains, and spending long, lazy days on the beach. The trip of a lifetime to celebrate our marriage, our future, our love of adventure. As water cascaded over my shoulders, I thought about how hard we'd worked for this. Alex and I had both put in overtime for months, stashing away extra cash. We'd skipped dinners out, made coffee at home, and passed on weekend getaways with friends. Every sacrifice had been worth it for this moment. I stepped out of the shower to find Alex making coffee in the kitchen, our suitcases lined up by the door. "I double-checked our documents," he said, sliding a mug toward me. "Passports, boarding passes, hotel confirmations, all good to go." "Perfect," I said, wrapping my arms around his waist and pressing my face against his back. "I can't believe we're finally doing this." Alex turned to face me, his expression suddenly serious. "My dad called last night after you went to bed." I stiffened. Richard Donovan, my father-in-law of exactly 3 days, was not my biggest fan, nor was I his. What did he want? The usual. Said we're being irresponsible with our money, that we should be saving for a house instead of gallivanting across the globe. Alex mimicked his father's gruff voice. I told him it was our honeymoon, not some frivolous vacation, but you know how he gets. I sighed, trying not to let Richard's disapproval taint our excitement. Did he at least wish us a good trip? Alex's hesitation told me everything. "He'll come around, Eliza. He just doesn't understand why travel matters to us." That was an understatement. Since Alex and I had started dating 3 years ago, Richard had made it clear that he thought my influence was steering his son away from practical goals. In Richard's world, success meant a sensible career, a house in the suburbs, and investments, not passport stamps and foreign adventures. The fact that Alex and I had good jobs and were careful with our money didn't seem to register with him. In his eyes, travel was a waste, plain and simple. "Well, today's not about your dad," I said firmly, pulling away to finish getting ready. "It's about us, our marriage, and those gorgeous Balinese beaches calling our names." The shuttle arrived precisely on time, and as we loaded our bags, I felt a twinge of relief. For the next 2 weeks, we would be far away from Richard's judgmental looks and pointed comments about fiscal responsibility. Maybe the distance would be good for everyone. As the shuttle pulled away from our apartment complex, Alex reached for my hand. "Nothing but blue skies ahead, Mrs. Donovan." "Don't jinx it," I laughed, but squeezed his hand back. I had no idea how prophetic those words would turn out to be. We arrived at the airport 3 hours before our flight, as recommended for international travel. Check-in should have been smooth. We had already done it online, had our boarding passes on our phones, and only needed to drop our bags. But when we approached the counter, the attendant frowned at her screen. I'm sorry, but I'm not seeing your reservation in the system, she said, fingers flying across the keyboard. Could I see your confirmation number again? Alex pulled up the email on his phone and showed it to her. She studied it, then looked back at her screen with a deepening frown. This is strange. Let me check something else. She picked up a phone and spoke quietly to someone, her eyes occasionally darting to us. I felt the first flutter of unease in my stomach. Maybe it's just a computer glitch? Maybe, Alex said, but I could hear the tension in his voice. After what seemed like an eternity, the attendant hung up the phone and gave us that look, the one customer service representatives give when they're about to deliver bad news. I'm very sorry, but it appears your reservations were canceled yesterday afternoon. And that's when my perfect honeymoon began to unravel. Canceled? I repeated, my voice sounding distant to my own ears. That's impossible. We didn't cancel anything. According to our records, the cancellation was made by phone yesterday at 3:42 p.m., and the refund has already been processed to the original payment method. She turned the screen to show us the notes on our reservation. Alex's phone chimed with a text message. He glanced down, and I watched his face transform from confusion to disbelief to anger in the span of seconds. When he showed me the message from his father, "Call me when you get this. You'll thank me later," the pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. He wouldn't. Alex muttered, already dialing his father's number. He stepped away from the counter, and I could see the rigid line of his shoulders as he waited for Richard to answer. I turned back to the attendant, desperation crawling into my voice. There has to be something you can do. We didn't cancel these reservations. It was a mistake, or worse, someone canceled them without our permission. Her sympathetic expression didn't waver. I understand, but the flight is fully booked now. The best I can do is put you on standby, but with it being high season, the chances are very slim. She paused, lowering her voice. If someone unauthorized canceled your reservation, that's a serious matter. You might want to consider filing a police report. A police report. Against my father-in-law. 3 days into my marriage. I glanced over at Alex, who was now gesturing emphatically as he spoke into his phone. His face had flushed red, and I could hear his voice rising even from several feet away. This was not how our honeymoon was supposed to begin. The attendant was still talking, offering alternatives and suggestions, but her voice faded to background noise as a cold fury settled in my chest. I'd spent years trying to win Richard's approval, to prove that I was good enough for his son despite my impractical love of travel and adventure. I'd tolerated his backhanded compliments, his constant financial advice, and his not-so-subtle attempts to steer Alex toward a life that mirrored his own. But this, actively sabotaging our honeymoon, crossed a line I couldn't forgive. Alex returned to my side, his face a storm of emotions. He did it, he confirmed, his voice tight. He actually canceled our reservations because he thinks we're making a financial mistake, and that we'll thank him later when we're looking at houses instead of pictures of beaches. Alex raked a hand through his hair. He says he deposited the refund in our joint account this morning. Like that makes it okay. The attendant cleared her throat awkwardly. I'm so sorry about the situation. Is there anything else I can help with today? What could she do? Our meticulously planned honeymoon had just been torpedoed by a controlling father-in-law who thought he knew better than we did about our own lives. The trip we'd saved for, dreamed about, and looked forward to for a year was now nothing more than a painful reminder of how little respect Richard had for our choices. No, I said flatly. Thank you for your help. We wheeled our suitcases to a quiet corner of the departure area, the reality of our situation sinking in. All around us, travelers hurried to gates, excited for their own adventures. The happiness that had carried me through the morning had evaporated, leaving behind a hollow ache and simmering rage. I can't believe he did this, Alex said, pacing in front of me. What was he thinking? That we'd just go home and thank him for saving us from our own decisions. Apparently, I said, my voice coming out sharper than intended. But the real question is, what are we going to do about it? Alex stopped pacing and looked at me, confusion written across his features. Do? Eliza, our flight leaves in 2 hours, and we don't have reservations anymore. The hotel in Bali is probably gone too. There's nothing we can do. So we just accept it? I demanded, standing up. Your father unilaterally decided that our honeymoon wasn't worth taking, and we're supposed to go home with our tails between our legs and thank him for the life lesson? A flash of defensiveness crossed Alex's face. Of course not. I'm furious with him. But the practical reality is that we can't get on that plane today, and the practical reality, I interrupted, is that your father has been undermining our relationship since day one, and this is just the most extreme example. The practical reality is that if we let him get away with this, he'll think he has the right to make other decisions for us too. Where we live, when we have kids, how we raise them. That's not fair, Alex said, his voice rising to match mine. You're acting like I agree with what he did. Then why aren't you as angry as I am? I shot back. Why aren't you ready to fight for the honeymoon we worked so hard to plan? A few nearby travelers glanced our way, and Alex lowered his voice. I am angry, Eliza. I'm livid. But I'm also trying to be realistic about our options. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Fighting with Alex wouldn't solve anything. Richard was the problem, not my husband. Okay, I said, more measured now. Let's think this through. The refund is in our account, right? Alex nodded. According to my dad, yes. So we have the money. We just need new reservations. I pulled out my phone and opened the airlines app. Maybe there are seats on tomorrow's flight or the next day. We lose a day or two of our trip, but it's better than nothing. Alex's expression softened, a glimmer of hope replacing the frustration. You're right. Let's check. For the next hour, we huddled over our phones, searching for alternative flights and checking the status of our hotel reservation in Bali, which, as I suspected, had also been canceled. The airline's app showed no available seats for the next 3 days, and most hotels in our price range were fully booked for the high season. This isn't working, Alex finally admitted, setting down his phone in defeat. Maybe we should consider postponing the trip until the off-season. Or choosing a different destination. I looked up at him, a sudden idea taking shape. Or maybe we don't need to go to Bali at all. Alex raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Your dad canceled our specific reservations, but we still have the money. We're already at the airport. Why don't we just go somewhere else? Today? Now. A slow smile spread across Alex's face. Somewhere affordable with available flights and accommodations. I nodded, excitement building in my chest. Exactly. It won't be the honeymoon we planned, but it will still be our honeymoon. And it will be our choice. Alex hesitated. My dad will be furious when he finds out we spent the money anyway. Good, I said firmly. Maybe then he'll realize he can't control us. Besides, it's our money now. He made sure of that when he deposited the refund in our account. Alex's smile widened into a grin. You're right. Let's do it. He opened the airlines app again. Where to, Mrs. Donovan? For the next 30 minutes, we searched for destinations with available flights leaving that day. We found an affordable option to Costa Rica, with a departure just 5 hours later. Without hesitating, we booked it, along with a small beachfront hotel that had a last-minute cancellation. It wasn't Bali, but it had beaches, adventure activities, and most importantly, it was far away from Richard Donovan and his opinions about our finances. We should call your dad, I said once our new reservations were confirmed. Let him know we're not coming home. Alex's jaw tightened. I'll do more than that. He dialed his father's number again, putting the call on speaker so I could hear. Richard answered on the second ring. Alex? Where are you? Are you home? No, Dad. We're still at the airport, Alex replied, his voice steady. Good, then you got my message in time. I was worried you might have already boarded. Look, son, I know you might be upset right now, but trust me, you'll thank me when you're looking at houses instead of wasting money on. We're not coming home, Alex interrupted. We've booked new tickets and we're still going on our honeymoon. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. You did what? Richard finally sputtered. You heard me. You put the refund in our account, remember? That money is ours now, and we're spending it on our honeymoon, just like we always planned. This is exactly the kind of irresponsible behavior I was trying to prevent. Richard's voice rose with indignation. You and Eliza need to start thinking about your future, not throwing money away on vacations. I couldn't stay silent any longer. It's not throwing money away, Richard, I said, leaning toward the phone. It's investing in our marriage, in experiences we'll remember for the rest of our lives. And it's our decision to make, not yours. Put Alex back on, Richard demanded. I'm still here, Dad, Alex said. And I agree with Eliza. What you did was completely out of line. You had no right to cancel our reservations without our permission. I was trying to help you, Richard insisted. That's what fathers do. They stop their children from making mistakes. We're not children, Alex replied, his voice gaining strength with each word. We're adults who are perfectly capable of managing our own money and making our own choices. And right now, we're choosing to go on our honeymoon. This is her influence, Richard said bitterly. She's always encouraging these impractical ideas. Stop, Alex cut him off. This isn't about Eliza versus you. This is about respect. You didn't respect our decision, our planning, or our right to choose how we spend our money. And until you can understand that and apologize, truly apologize, to both of us, we need to take a step back from our relationship with you. Another stunned silence fell over the line. I squeezed Alex's free hand, pride swelling in my chest. This was the man I married, someone who would stand up for what was right, even when it was difficult. You don't mean that, Richard finally said, his voice noticeably subdued. I do, Alex replied. I love you, Dad, but this was wrong on every level. We'll be gone for 2 weeks. When we get back, we can talk about where we go from here. But it needs to start with you recognizing that Eliza and I make decisions together as equals, and neither of us needs your approval for those decisions. Alex, Richard began, but Alex cut him off again. Our flight board's in a few hours. Goodbye, Dad. He ended the call and let out a long breath as if he'd been holding it for years. I wrapped my arms around him, tears stinging my eyes. I'm so proud of you. He hugged me back tightly. I should have set those boundaries a long time ago. I'm sorry it took something this extreme for me to finally do it. Better late than never, I said, pulling back to look at him. Are you okay? Alex thought for a moment, then nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I am. It doesn't feel great to confront him like that, but it also feels necessary. Right. He smiled at me, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. Besides, we have a honeymoon to focus on. We spent the next few hours reorganizing our plans, researching Costa Rica, and grabbing lunch at an airport restaurant. By the time our new flight was ready to board, the shock and anger of the morning had transformed into a different kind of excitement, the thrill of the unexpected, the adventure of the unplanned. As we settled into our seats on the plane, Alex reached for my hand. Not exactly how I imagined our honeymoon starting, he admitted. No, I agreed, but maybe it's better this way. We're starting our marriage by standing up for ourselves, by choosing our own path regardless of what others think is best. That seems like a good foundation. Alex's smile was thoughtful. When you put it that way, it does sound pretty perfect. He leaned over to kiss me softly. I love you, Eliza Donovan. I love you too, I whispered against his lips. Now, let's go have an adventure. The plane took off, carrying us away from Richard's disapproval and toward the uncertain but exciting journey we'd chosen for ourselves. As I watched the clouds pass by my window, I thought about how differently the day had unfolded from what I'd expected. This morning, I had been certain that our carefully planned Bali honeymoon would be perfect. Now, we were headed to a country neither of us had researched extensively, staying in a hotel we'd booked on a whim, without any of the excursions or activities we'd so meticulously arranged. And yet, I couldn't remember ever feeling more right about a decision. 7 days into our Costa Rican honeymoon, I lay on a hammock strung between 2 palm trees, watching Alex emerge from the ocean, surfboard under his arm. The past week had been a revelation. We'd hiked through rainforests, spotted sloths and toucans, ziplined over canopies, and spent long evenings on our small private deck watching the sunset. Without the pressure of a rigid itinerary, we'd discovered a freedom to explore at our own pace, to say yes to unexpected opportunities, and to truly relax into our new life together. Alex dropped his surfboard on the sand and flopped onto the hammock beside me, his wet hair dripping onto my sundress. Hey, I protested, laughing as I pushed him away. Sorry, he grinned, not looking sorry at all. Man, that was amazing. You should try it tomorrow. Maybe, I said, though we both knew I probably wouldn't. Alex was the adrenaline junkie. I was content to watch him from the shore, camera in hand to capture his triumphs and wipeouts the like. Alex's phone, which he'd left with me while surfing, chimed with a message notification. He reached for it, and I saw his expression grow serious as he read. Everything okay? I asked. He hesitated, then handed me the phone. It was a message from his mother. Your father feels terrible about what happened. He wants to know if you'll call him when you have a chance. I've never seen him this upset. I handed the phone back, uncertain how to respond. What do you think? Alex sighed, running a hand through his damp hair. I don't know. Part of me is still angry, but another part. He trailed off. Misses your dad? I supplied. He nodded. Is that crazy? After what he did? No, I said slowly. He's still your father. You can be angry with someone and love them at the same time. I paused, gathering my thoughts. Do you want to call him? Alex looked out at the ocean, considering. I think I do. Not to smooth things over or pretend what he did was okay, but to see if he's really ready to listen. I nodded, understanding. I'll give you some space. No, stay, Alex said, reaching for my hand. We're in this together, remember? Besides, this affects you as much as me. I settled back onto the hammock as Alex dialed his father's number, putting the call on speaker again. Richard answered almost immediately. Alex? His voice sounded older somehow, strained. I didn't think you'd call. Mom said you wanted to talk, Alex replied, his tone neutral. There was a pause, then Richard cleared his throat. I owe you both an apology. What I did it was wrong. I had no right to interfere in your plans that way. Alex and I exchanged surprised glances. Neither of us had expected such a direct admission. No, you didn't, Alex agreed. It was a serious breach of trust. I know that now, Richard said. Your mother has made that abundantly clear over the past week. There was a hint of rueful humor in his voice. She's barely spoken to me since he left. It's not just about the honeymoon, Dad, Alex said. It's about respecting that Eliza and I make our own decisions now. We're not asking for your approval on how we live our lives or spend our money. I understand that, Richard said. Or at least, I'm trying to. It's difficult for me to step back. I've always seen my role as protecting you, guiding you away from mistakes. But I'm beginning to realize that my definition of a mistake isn't necessarily yours. He paused. And that canceling your honeymoon was the real mistake, mine, not yours. I found myself unexpectedly moved by his words. This wasn't the defensive, self-righteous Richard I'd come to know. This was someone humbled, someone making a genuine effort to understand where he'd gone wrong. Thank you for saying that, I said softly. Eliza, Richard acknowledged. I owe you a separate apology as well. I haven't been fair to you. I've blamed you for influencing Alex toward choices I wouldn't make, without considering that those choices might be right for him, for both of you. I'm sorry for that. The sincerity in his voice caught me off guard. For 3 years, I'd longed for acceptance from this man, for some sign that he saw me as more than a bad influence on his son. Now, ironically, it had taken an act of extreme interference to bring us to this moment of potential understanding. I appreciate that, Richard, I said. I want you to know that I love your son very much, and I would never encourage him to do anything that wasn't in his best interest. I believe you, Richard said. And I can see now that different doesn't necessarily mean wrong. He cleared his throat again. So, Costa Rica? How is it? Alex's face relaxed into a smile. It's incredible, Dad. Yesterday we saw a sloth with a baby clinging to its chest. The day before, we hiked to a waterfall so beautiful it didn't look real. That sounds special, Richard said, and I could hear the effort he was making to understand the value in our experience. Your mother would love to hear all about it. Maybe when you get back, you could come over for dinner. Show us your pictures. Alex looked at me, raising an eyebrow in question. I nodded. We'd like that, he told his father. But Dad, we need to be clear about something. We're willing to move forward, but things need to change. No more comments about how we waste our money. No more trying to steer us toward the life you think we should have. We need your respect, not your approval. I understand, Richard said solemnly. I can't promise I'll never slip up or offer unsolicited advice. I am your father, after all, but I will do my best to remember that your lives are yours to design. He paused. And I will never, ever interfere with your plans like that again. You have my word. Thank you, Alex said. That means a lot. Well, I'll let you get back to your honeymoon, Richard said. Your real one, not the one I tried to force on you. Enjoy every minute of it. You've earned it. After they said their goodbyes, Alex set down the phone and let out a long, relieved breath. That went better than I expected. Much better, I agreed. Do you think he means it? I do, Alex said thoughtfully. My dad's stubborn and opinionated, but he's never been dishonest. If he says he'll try, he'll try. I nestled against Alex's side, watching the waves roll onto the shore. It's strange, isn't it? If he hadn't canceled our Bali reservations, we wouldn't be here right now, having one of the best weeks of our lives. And he might never have had that realization about needing to let go. Sometimes the worst beginnings lead to the best outcomes, Alex mused, his arm tightening around me. Speaking of which, I have a surprise for you. I raised an eyebrow. A good surprise? Because I've had enough of the other kind. He laughed. Definitely good. I talked to the hotel manager yesterday while you were getting a massage. There's a small cove about a mile down the beach that's completely private. He said we can have dinner there tonight, just us, a table on the sand, candles, the works. I thought it would be a nice way to celebrate our 1-week anniversary. I leaned up to kiss him, my heart full. That sounds perfect. That evening, as we sat at a beautifully set table on a secluded beach, the setting sun painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, I couldn't help but reflect on the journey that had brought us here. 1 week ago, we had stood in an airport, devastated by the discovery of Richard's betrayal. Now, we were stronger for having faced that challenge together, for having chosen our own path despite the obstacles thrown in our way. Alex raised his glass of champagne, the candlelight reflecting in his eyes. To unexpected adventures, he toasted. I clinked my glass against his. And to making our own choices, even when they're not the ones others would make for us. Especially then, Alex agreed with a smile. You know, my dad was right about one thing. Oh! What's that? This money was an investment, Alex said, gesturing to the beautiful scene around us. Not in a house or a retirement account, but in us, in memories we'll carry forever, in a foundation for our marriage built on standing up for what matters to us. I reached across the table to take his hand. The best investment we could have made. As the stars began to appear overhead, I thought about the story we'd tell someday, about a honeymoon that began with a devastating discovery and ended with a deeper understanding of ourselves, each other. And even the man who had tried to stop us from being here. It wasn't the honeymoon we'd planned, but it was ours. Every unexpected, beautiful moment of it. And in the end, that made it perfect.